Syracuse lost at SMU 31-18 yesterday, and you all had plenty to talk about after the game. So let's address it on Locked On Syracuse.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are reacting to your takes following Syracuse's loss at SMU 31-18. And trust me, you all had plenty to discuss after the game. So I apologize for not getting to every single comment, but I really do genuinely appreciate the support. And of course, we're going to talk about Syracuse's quarterback situation. All that and more here on today's Fan Reaction Podcast. And before we get to everything, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Syracuse football yesterday, they lost at SMU 31-18. They now sit at 3-3, entering their first bye week of the 2025 season. Now, I'm going to lead off the conversation before we get into your thoughts about the game. And the reason why I am leading it off is because there is something that I did forget to mention in the post-game show yesterday evening. I know a lot of you want to switch quarterbacks. You want to go to Luke Carney, the true freshman, instead of Rickie Collins. And I'm not here to suggest that you are wrong, because honestly, I don't really know what the right answer truly is with Syracuse at quarterback. But there is one thing I forgot to mention with that. I think this year was supposed to be a redshirt year for Luke Carney, and we just have to keep that in mind. Luke Carney has already played technically one game of college football. Yes, I know it was only one play against Colgate, but it does count as a game played for Luke Carney, and he's only allowed to play in 4 games total this season before his redshirt year would be burned. So just keep that in mind. I'm not sure if that really changes your opinion, but I don't know if it's worth it burning his redshirt year just because Rickie Collins isn't very good, but perhaps you feel differently. So feel free right now to chime in the comments section below. I just wanted to point that out because I think it was a big factoid that I missed on yesterday's post-game show. And you know what? I don't bat 1,000. I am not perfect. As one of the comments here is going to mention, basically calling me out for being an idiot. You know what? Sometimes I screw up here on Locked On Syracuse. And with that being said, after I basically just disqualified myself and called myself an idiot on camera, let's get into your takes. All right, let's do it. And let's start off with on Twitter, at @PositiveTK here. I actually did not hate the defense despite the score. Rickie Collins had 2 absolute touchdowns he just missed. Locks in on his reads, not stepping into throws, lots of balls and receivers in harm's way. The defense was certainly better than it was last week against Duke. That I will give Syracuse's defense credit for, but the bar is incredibly low. The fact that we're sitting here saying, oh, you know, the defense wasn't terrible, and yet they still gave up 31 points and nearly 400 yards, I think it just shows you how bad this defense is and how desperate we are for this defense to really do anything for this team. And look, they did put up points on the scoreboard. They got a safety. They also got an interception by Davian Kerr in the 4th quarter. They also forced a fumble at one point. I think it was in the second half, which just bounced right to Kevin Jennings. It was a fluky play. So the defense certainly had its moments. It had some of its bright spots, but this is still not a good defense. But as far as Rickie Collins is concerned, you couldn't have said it any better. You really couldn't have. Rickie Collins on a pretty consistent basis, and this is not a good thing I'm about to say, he struggles with accuracy, he struggles with timing, and he really struggles with decision-making. None of those are good traits for any quarterback, regardless of the level that they are playing in. So, yeah, Rickie Collins, not very good through 2 games with Syracuse. Let's get into the next comment here. This is the one that is calling me out. All right. At CLCKWRK Orange over on YouTube in the comments section. Thank you so much for the comment here. So much for, quote, winning plenty of games with Collins, end quote. Of course, that was me who said that Syracuse could win plenty of games with Rickie Collins. I still have no idea what you saw in the Clemson game that led you to say that. He has sucked since that short field touchdown that Simmons bailed him out on. I mean, we could sit here and debate that throw to Justice Ross Simmons. I thought it was a nice back shoulder throw, but that's neither here nor there. And yes, I am wrong at this point, and it stinks to be wrong. I thought that Syracuse could win games with Rickie Collins, that Syracuse could still be a very competitive team in the ACC with Rickie. But it wasn't necessarily about what I saw from Rickie. I will admit that. And this is my mistake. I fell for what Fran Brown was saying in fall camp and throughout the offseason, that the quarterback competition between Steve Angeli and Rickie Collins was very close. And I figured that if the quarterback competition was close and Steve Angeli was playing at a really high level, that Rickie Collins would at least play at a pretty high level for Syracuse. I didn't have the same expectations for him. I understood that there could be a little bit of a drop-off, and they also have different play styles. But at the end of the day, they're not close. Not even close. One guy, I mentioned this yesterday in the postgame, one guy is an all-conference caliber quarterback, or at least that's what he showed in Steve Angeli through 4 games. The other is not a power conference starter. So they're not close. I admit I was wrong. I got fooled by Fran Brown in the offseason saying the quarterback competition was close. That's why I figured that Syracuse could still win games, and it stinks to be wrong about that. And you know what? I can take it. Sometimes I'm wrong. I'm not going to bat 1,000 here on Locked On Syracuse, so I apologize for that. Let's go to at JR:76 here. This is a good comment. Jackson, even if Fran Brown was wrong about the quarterback competition, what in the world did he see in Rickie to accept him in the portal? I mean, my goodness, Rickie has a long way to go to develop. To answer your question, Fran Brown saw the upside in Rickie Collins. He saw the desirable traits that you are looking for in a quarterback. He saw the athleticism that Rickie Collins has. He saw the arm that Rickie Collins has. And I think we can all admit that as poorly as Rickie Collins is playing, it's not like there's nothing there. It's not like when he steps on the field that he doesn't even close to resemble someone who could one day be a good quarterback, because you see that he has a good arm. You see that he's got good mobility. You see that he is a good athlete, but it's just one of those things where I don't think it's ever going to come all together for him. It's like he has all the different pieces to the puzzle, but he can't put the puzzle together. And I think he's going to run out of time in college for him to truly develop. That's where I'm at with Rickie Collins. But as far as what Fran Brown saw in him in the transfer portal, he saw the traits. And he saw someone, I think, who he thought could develop into a really good quarterback one day. And maybe he can. Maybe he can. But I don't think that's going to happen, at least at Syracuse in 2025. Hope to be wrong, maybe for 2026 and 2027. Who knows? But that's what I think Fran Brown saw in him. He was a 4-star quarterback in high school for a reason. But at the end of the day, he's not going to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. We still got plenty more to discuss here on Locked On Syracuse. Plenty more of your takes to react to on this podcast. And we'll get to them in just a moment. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Locked on Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. Let's continue reacting to your takes following Syracuse's 31-18 loss at SMU. Let's go to the next comment right here from YouTube at DERKONIG1. Rickie Collins looked bad against Colgate and against two of the worst ACC defenses. I would use the next 2 weeks to get Luke Carney ready, but I can also see them staying with Rickie Collins for the Pitt game. So Luke Carney, and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, he is the backup quarterback of Syracuse football. That means by default, he's got to prepare like he is going to start the game for Syracuse because like we learned with Rickie Collins and Steve Angeli, the backup quarterback needs to be ready in a moment's notice. The backup quarterback is always one snap away from being essentially the leader of the entire team. So Luke Carney, he's got to be ready in a moment's notice to be able to fill in for Rickie Collins. And yeah, Rickie Collins, he struggled against the Duke defense, which is not great. He struggled against SMU. And we mentioned this. SMU had, going into the game, the worst passing defense in the ACC. Worst in the ACC. So it doesn't get really any easier than that, at least in conference play. And there are no more cupcakes on the schedule. You got a full conference slate from here on out that they're playing. And the one non-con game that's left on the schedule is at Notre Dame. What do you think the Notre Dame defense is going to do to Rickie Collins? I don't even really want to think about it. It's going to be ugly, 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 ugly. Let's get to the next comment here from @Paul Steph5714. Give Fran Brown credit for going out and getting Steve. SU won in the second half. Hip, hip, hooray. Syracuse did win the second half. Doesn't really mean a whole lot, but you know what? They did win the second half. I think they did play better, particularly on defense in the second half. It's just that they gave up 24 points in the first half. But whatever. I mean, they played better in the second half. And I do give Fran Brown a lot of credit. I do. For going out and getting Steve Angeli in the spring transfer portal. Now, whether or not Fran Brown is ever going to admit this publicly or privately, we know the real reason Fran Brown went out and got Steve Angeli in the spring portal. Okay, we know the real reason. It is because he got Rickie Collins in December. He watched Rickie Collins from December to March, and he realized that Rickie Collins was not good enough to be the starting quarterback of Syracuse football. I don't care what he says. I don't care if he says the quarterback competition was close. You cannot tell me through 2 games that these 2 quarterbacks were anywhere close. And you cannot tell me watching these 2 games that Fran Brown was confident that Rickie Collins could be the starter of Syracuse. There is just no way around it. He went out and he got Steve Angeli because he knew that Rickie wasn't good enough. And I give him a lot of credit for that. It's just unfortunate that he corrected his mistake from the fall portal, but the guy in the spring portal and Steve Angeli got hurt for the season. He got hurt for the season. He's not coming back. There's nothing really we can do at this moment unless you want to actually switch quarterbacks here. But we know the real reason. And I'm not necessarily mad about it. I think Fran Brown ultimately made the right move. It's just unfortunate that Steve Angeli got injured. Okay? Let's get to the next one here. And this is a great comment. And the reason why this is a great comment, because it is a different perspective. It is a different side. And before I actually read this comment, for those that are maybe listening on audio, I just want to point out to this person, I don't know this person's real name. It is at CYPlasticsWorksync.7433 on YouTube, that I disagree with most of what this person is saying, but there is one thing that we do agree upon. But hey, you know what? I'm always open to hearing the other side, especially with the quarterback situation. Let's get to the comment. I think that playing Luke Carney would be a huge mistake. Play him against Boston College in the last game if you are simply curious. Steve Angeli didn't look great until his third game. Rickie needs time. He has started 2 college football games. He was decidedly better this week than last, so he is progressing. I thought he was going through his progressions better at the end, not to mention using his wheels. If you sit him now for Carney, you are seriously derailing his progress. And let's talk coaching. The play calling was predictable and too risky with so many fourth down attempts that gave SMU great field position. How about if we try a freshman offensive coordinator? We still have an opportunity to go to a bowl game if we beat UNC, Boston College, and one of the tough games, tough it out and accept that it is a developmental year. Yeah, great comments here. And I'm going to address most, if not all, of what you said. Okay. I don't know what your name is, though. I wish I knew what your name was, because it would be very easy to sit here and actually have a one-on-one conversation with you if I knew your name, but that's okay. It's hard to accept that this is a developmental year. And the reason why it's hard to accept is because I think we all kind of had a feeling going into the year it could be a developmental year for Syracuse, for sure, that they may not win a lot of games. It's a young roster with a tougher schedule on paper. But Steve Angeli had this team in excellent position. He really did during that Clemson game. You thought during that Clemson game, like I think many other people thought, and I mean, that Syracuse was going to be good. They looked like a team that was at least going to make a bowl, if not actually contend for legitimacy in the ACC this season. And unfortunately, with Steve Angeli going down, that is no longer the case. And I believe that if Steve Angeli were healthy, this would be a team that is either 4-2 or even 5-1 right now. It's hard to look at the Duke game and say, oh, Jackson, he would have made up all those points. But, you know, a bounce here, bounce there early in that game, maybe with Steve Angeli. Maybe Steve Angeli doesn't throw the interception on the first drive like Rickie Collins did. You never know what could have happened in that Duke game. Coaching-wise, I support, for the most part, Fran Brown's decisions to go for it on fourth down. And I think it's because he cannot manage a game like this is a normal team. He can't. That is something that I will, for the most part, defend him on. He doesn't trust his defense. And quite frankly, neither do I. I don't care if the defense has great field position to start or whether they don't have great field position to start. They're not a very good unit. And I would rather go for it on 4th and 1 than put my defense on the field. Because either way, I see that the defense is going to give up points. They're going to give up yards. So I support Fran Brown's decisions to go for it. I know for many of you, you probably are, if you're watching on TV, you're probably throwing the remote at your TV saying, Jackson, you're such an idiot. How could you say that? That's just how I feel. I support his decisions for the most part to go for it on 4th down. As far as Rickie Collins progressing from one game to another, I think Fran Brown actually mentioned this post-game about how, hey, he threw a touchdown this time around. I don't see what you're seeing. I really don't. I actually think he might have been worse against SMU than he was against Duke. Genuinely. I thought he just, for most of the game, he was staring down his receivers, making inaccurate passes. I don't think he was very good at all. Also, with regards to play calling, we have seen multiple quarterbacks and multiple different sets of personnel execute this offense and play their best football. So I'm not going to get on the play calling now because Rickie Collins is a bad quarterback. I think bad quarterback play is going to make an offensive coordinator maybe look worse than he actually is. I think Jeff Nixon is far from the problem with Syracuse right now. He might be Syracuse. Actually, I mean, it's between him and Ricky Brumfield because Ricky Brumfield's done a great job with special teams, but those two are very good coordinators for Syracuse. The defensive coordinator, Elijah Robinson, I hope he's not around for next season. Sorry, that's just my opinion on him. But yeah, I don't think Jeff Nixon is really the problem here. I would not go to a different offensive coordinator. I think he is fine. And I don't think Rickie Collins needs more time. Rickie Collins has been now in school for 3 years. I get he's only started 2 games, but I think there's a reason why he has only started 2 games. He's not very good. Okay? He's not very good. And for what it's worth, Steve Angeli was very good in week 1 against Tennessee. Very good in week 1. I know the numbers may not jump off the page. The eye test in that game, Steve Angeli looked like a better quarterback than the numbers actually suggest. I think that was more a product of Tennessee has a far superior team to Syracuse, and it maybe made Steve Angeli's numbers look worse than he actually performed in that game. But I say everything because I disagree with pretty much everything you say to say that I agree with you on one thing. You ready for this? I think Rickie Collins needs to continue being the starting quarterback at Syracuse. And I don't think it's necessarily the reason that you brought up with Luke Carney, or it's the reason you brought up with derailing the progress of Rickie, because he has not made progress. I don't care what Fran Brown says. He has not made progress. I don't want to burn the red shirt of Luke Carney. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I would do the math on I guess I would say the final 3 games of the season. Maybe you give to Luke Carney. Could we maybe agree on that? Syracuse fans, like, we give it to where Luke Carney can start the final 3 games and not have his eligibility ruined. That's kind of where I'm at right now. That's why I brought it up in the very top of the show with the eligibility thing I left out. I think it's very important to think big picture. Like, who cares about Rickie Collins? He is not going to be the long-term solution for Syracuse at quarterback, okay? This guy is just not it. He ain't good enough. But with Luke Carney, he could. And I want him to have as many years of eligibility as possible, especially because Steve Angeli now has another year of eligibility because he got hurt this year. He's got 2 more years now after this. So I don't want to burn the red shirt of Luke Carney. If Luke Carney is the successor to Steve Angeli, don't you want him to have at least that other year to start? Maybe. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Maybe you think I'm nuts. Maybe you still want to, treat this season and say, hey, Luke Carney might give us a better shot to win to make a bowl in 2025. That's fine. That's fine. I totally understand it. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, if Rickie Collins gets hurt, that changes everything. Then you need to go to Luke Carney. But I would not go to Luke Carney just because Rickie Collins is not good. And I think a lot of it is because of eligibility. But comment your thoughts in the comment section below. And we still got plenty more to react to on Locked On Syracuse, your takes about the game. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And hey, I've mentioned this before on Locked On Syracuse. When I was a student at Syracuse, one of the places I would frequently go to get my coffee, Salt City Coffee over on University Avenue. Great place to get your coffee. And hey, especially on game days. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you definitely don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, just put $5 on the New York Jets to lose a football game. I'm recording this before their game against the Dallas Cowboys. They might have beaten Dallas just because of the trolls of the Dallas Cowboys. But for other games, not the Dallas Cowboys, I highly suggest putting the $5 down on the team that is playing against the Jets, and you'll probably get $300 in bonus bets if that is your first $5 bet, because the New York Jets, you never bet with the Jets. Never, okay? Never bet on the Jets. Always against them. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Let's continue reacting to your takes following Syracuse's 31-18 loss to SMU. Let's get to this one here from @Aki123 on Twitter. 3-3. What everyone thought. That is an optimistic way of looking at the season so far for Syracuse. I will certainly give you that. And I don't know if everyone thought Syracuse would be 3-3, but a lot of people thought they'd be 3-3 at the bye week. But let me ask you this. I'm speaking directly to the person who made this comment. Syracuse at 3-3, you would think is a pretty good spot. Do you think this team is going to make a bowl in 2025? Do you genuinely think that they're going to split the final 6 games? You have to keep in mind how we got to 3-3. See, Syracuse was at 3-1, but they were getting great quarterback play from Steve Angeli. This team has not showed me that they can win games with poor quarterback play, unless you want to say the UConn game, but they're playing better competition than UConn for the rest of the season. So them getting poor quarterback play for Rickie Collins, I don't think they can win games with their defense. And if they don't have a passing game, are they good enough in the running game to be able to run at will on teams? I don't think so. Their passing game is not good enough right now. It really isn't. So, yeah, they're 3-3, and that's an optimistic way of looking at it, that they only need to split the final 6 to make a bowl. But I don't see it right now. And, their quarterback play is just awful. And Steve Angeli is not coming back. And we'll get to this comment right here to further my point about this. This is on YouTube at TeamMan44. Question: will we win another game this season? If so, who can we beat? So Syracuse still has a couple of, I would say, pretty winnable games on their schedule. They got North Carolina at home on Halloween, and they got Boston College at home to close the regular season. I think even with poor quarterback play, they can win those games. Those two teams are not very good. I'm not going to sit here and Broadway Joe Namath guarantee that Syracuse wins those games, but those are winnable games. And, for the sake of being optimistic, let's say Syracuse does win both those games. They do beat North Carolina. They do beat Boston College. Terrific. Now they're at 5 wins. You need to win 6 to qualify for a bowl. So where is the final win coming from for Syracuse? Let's see. The other 4 games are Pitt at home. That's after the bye. At Georgia Tech. At Miami. At Notre Dame. Where's the win? Where is it? Where's the 6th game? So it goes back to the comment earlier about how they're 3-3. Even if we want to be optimistic and say that Syracuse is going to beat North Carolina and they're going to beat Boston College, find me the final win. Gosh, I wish instead of Notre Dame, they had another FCS opponent on their schedule, but they don't. So this is probably not a bowl team in 2025. And essentially that means that we have to look back at 2025 and say, what could have been? If Steve Angeli were still the quarterback, what could have been for Syracuse football this season, right? But I hope to be wrong. I would love Syracuse to run the table for the rest of the year. Wouldn't it be cool if Syracuse went 6-0 for the remainder of the season? Gosh, that would be amazing, right? But anyways, thank you all so much for all the support. Thank you all so much for chiming in here on this fan reaction podcast here on Locked On Syracuse. Of course, I apologize if I did not get to your comment on the show. Hopefully in a couple of weeks when we do another fan reaction podcast following the game against Pitt, that I will get to your comment here on Locked On Syracuse. But just want to say thank you all so much for the amazing support on Locked On Syracuse. And as far as what's coming up on the channel here in the near future, tomorrow we will do our big picture takeaways following this game. And then on Tuesday, we will really have an in-depth discussion about the future of the quarterback position at Syracuse. This will not just be about what to do about 2025, but also 2026 and beyond that. So stick around later on for Tuesday's episode on Locked On Syracuse. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse. I will see you all again soon.